Good evening. Happy...
We survived another no storm.
Happy Monday.
Unfortunately, the place we are talking about is currently getting hammered with said storm.
Blizzard.
We are talking feet.
Yep. Place we are talking about tonight is going to be Connecticut.
And they are currently going to be buried in snow.
They are quite buried in snow right now.
Yes.
But anyways, hope that you're all doing well. That you enjoyed yourselves with whatever over the last couple of weeks. We have been watching the Olympics basically nonstop, which are now concluded as of last night. The Paralympics are coming up now,
yes.
But the Olympics are concluded as of last night.
And we won hockey gold, men and women.
Both times.
It was a little bit of a nail biter.
Both of them were nail biters. And good evening, Dana. Glad to have you here. Connecticut, beautiful state. Got some friends up that way.
Yes, we do.
And some longtime friends and some ghost tour friends. If you ever get up that way, look up Seaside Shadows. They give some
Mystic, Connecticut.
Yep, they give some excellent tours up that way.
Yep.
But yeah, so we got we're not just going to be focusing on Mystic tonight, though. We are going to be focusing on some different spots, hopscotching back and forth across Connecticut because, well, they're
It's a small state, but it's well haunted.
Yeah, they got a lot of history up there too. So,
and we've talked about them a couple of different times. If you've caught our vampire talks at GalaxyCon,
I think we talked about it on here too. Some of those vampire ones.
Some of the ones,
and of course, the Warren Museum,
the Warren Occult Museum,
with Annabelle. So we will not be talking about Annabelle tonight because we've talked about Annabelle before on our haunted one of our haunted dolls episodes. I think it was the first one, but yeah. So we got other stuff to talk about across Connecticut tonight. If we don't fall asleep on the air.
Pardon, it's been a long day at work today.
For both of us. And
unfortunately, I'm recovering, and Chris apparently has caught what I had last week.
Yeah, not feeling the greatest tonight. And
Just the lack of alcohol.
No booze tonight. Tonight we're just running off of sheer willpower.
Cheers. And void energy right here.
You
barely see him.
Can see his nose there in the corner. But just barely. But anyways, yeah, glad to have all of you here. So yeah, we're going to, again, travel deep into the shadows of Connecticut, where there are revolutionary battlefields that still echo with marching feet. There's lighthouses that stand watch over the restless waters, and there are centuries-old inns that may harbor guests who never checked out. From the haunted hearth of the Griswold Inn to the cursed sands of Charles Island and the black dog stalking the hanging hills to the vampire panic that gripped Jewett City, this is a journey through the state's most enduring legends. The vampire one might be a repeat. Oh, well, we're going to find out.
Yeah.
I
know it was on one of our GalaxyCon
ones. We've talked about... Well,
I can't remember if it made it onto this one.
If it has, it has. If it...
We apologize, again, under the weather.
A little under the weather, and heck, we're well over 150 episodes deep now.
There's a lot of stories we've talked about.
Yeah, and a lot of stuff that, well, over the past almost 6 years now that we've...
been doing this.
Yep. We started, it'll be 6 years next month that we've been doing this. So, yeah, a lot of episodes. But anyways, speaking of that Griswold Inn, we're going to go ahead. We're going to start there.
Yes. So independence is in the air of winter of 1776. On January 31st of that year, the colony of Connecticut authorized the construction of its first warship for the revolutionary cause, the Oliver Cromwell.
Yep, they went there.
Alrighty then. The responsibility for bringing that vessel to life fell to shipbuilder Uriah Hayden of Essex.
Essex. There's only the X at the end.
Essex.
There you go. Yeah. Nailed it.
I need whiskey apparently to make my tongue work properly.
Do you need me to get you?
No, you do not need to get me whiskey.
Noted.
Not tonight.
You'd be on your own.
Yeah.
Anyways.
At the time, the riverside community was already well suited for shipbuilding. It had a deep harbor, dense timberlands, and skilled craftsmen that made it an ideal place to answer the call of rebellion. Hayden moved quickly. Tradesmen were hired, supplies were secured, timber was shaped and hammered into a form along the banks of the Connecticut River. The small town swelled with activity. Workers needed housing, suppliers needed food and drink. Politicians and patriots arrived to observe the progress of what would become a symbol of defiance against the crown. On June 13th of 1776, the Oliver Cromwell was successfully launched. From that same surge of revolutionary industry, the origins of what would become the Griswold Inn can be traced. Established in 1776, the inn rose in a community transformed by shipbuilding and war. It began as a gathering place for seafarers and merchants, men who lived by the tide tables and turning of the seasons. Over time, it became something more enduring, a fixture of Essex itself. Following the Revolution, innovation reshaped the travel of America, and by 1824, regular steamboat service began along the Connecticut River, and Essex became an important stop between Hartford and New York. A ferry crossing and a turnpike opened nearby, increasing the traffic by land as well as by water. Suddenly, the river town was connected to a much wider world. The inn stood ready, travelers arriving with windblown hair from the decks of the steamboats or weary from the carriage roads found warmth within its walls. The so-called golden era of steamboating brought prosperity and personality to the river. Captains, deckhands mingled with the merchants and the families on holiday. The walls of the inn started to fill with maritime art, ship portraits, coastal scenes, prints of celebrating the American industry and naval pride. Firearms from the Revolutionary era and the War of 1812 became part of its historical character. Quiet reminders of that that this was the place that was shaped by conflict as well as by commerce. But the inn's history never entirely was smooth sailing. In the 1840s, as the temperance movement gained momentum across New England, the Griswold Inn found itself on the receiving end of the moral reform. Women organized protest, carrying banners that called for abstinence and virtue. For a time, the establishment even operated as a first-class temperance hotel. The irony was not lost on the locals, then or now. In an inn that was built to serve thirsty sailors, it was briefly reinvented as a beacon of restraint. That didn't last. By the early 20th century, the national prohibition loomed and eventually took hold. Yes, sir.
Front and center.
I feel like I should start singing Lion King. Bye. Oh, we don't want to hear me do that.
No, carry on.
All right. By the early 20th century, as national prohibition loomed and eventually took hold, the Connecticut River told a different story after dark. Rum running. It had become a well-known local history. Fast boats slipped in and out of the secluded coves under the cover of night, unloading the cargo before vanishing into the mist. Federal agents raided establishments suspected of keeping the spirits flowing. And the Griswold Inn was no stranger to scrutiny. Fines were levied, warnings were issued, and yet the doors stayed open. The glasses were filled, the river kept its secrets. The Great Depression and the decline of shipbuilding slowed Essex to a quieter rhythm. Many river towns struggled, but the inn endured. Through careful stewardship by generations of owners, it adapted. By the 1940s, a new kind of sailor began appearing in the harbor. That was the recreational yachtsman. Yacht clubs formed. Pleasure crafts replaced the commercial vehicles. The romance of the sea remained, but it softened into leisure rather than labor. With the completion of the Interstate 95 and mid-20th century, weekend travelers from New York City and beyond found their way to Essex. The inn expanded its dining rooms and lodging adjacent to the historic properties were, of course, acquired to expand. Ownerships changed hands, but preservation remained the priority. In 1995, the Paul family of Essex purchased the inn and continued its careful restoration, adding a wine bar and retail space while maintaining the historic core. Through nearly 2.5 centuries, the Griswold Inn has remained what has always been there, a gathering place, a keeper of stories, and perhaps a keeper of those who never truly left. It is often in places layered with history that the air seems heavier, not unpleasant, just charged. Guests at the inn have reported hearing footsteps in empty corridors long after the tap room is quieted down. Doors close softly when no one is nearby. Cold drafts drift through rooms untouched by open windows. Some visitors speak of glimpsing figures in colonial attire at the edge of their vision. Men in long coats disappearing around corners as though late for a departure long since missed. But it is the sea captain who commands the most attention here. He is the most often associated with the great hearth inside the inn. It was a natural gathering place for sailors past and present. Witnesses describe a man in traditional maritime dress, sometimes seen standing near the fireplace. His gaze fixed not on the flames, but beyond them, toward the river, toward the darkened harbor. There's no clear record of which captain he may be. The inn has hosted countless mariners, privateers of the Revolutionary era, steamboat captains of the 19th century, rum runners who navigated by starlight. This could be any one of them who have formed an attachment to the inn. Staff members have grown accustomed to subtle signs, a chair slightly out of place in the morning, the faint scent of pipe smoke in a room long declared non-smoking, a sense of especially quiet on quiet winter nights, that someone is standing watch. Skeptics might attribute such experiences to suggestion. After all, when surrounded by maritime art, antique firearms, and century-old floorboards, the imagination does not require much encouragement. The building itself creaks and settles as all historic structures do. And yet, the reports are consistent. The captain appears thoughtful, not threatening, waiting, watching, maybe for a ship that never again will crest the horizon. It's fitting in a way, born of the fever of revolution, sustained by the tides of commerce and reform, challenged by prohibition and economic hardship, that the Griswold Inn has always been tied to the river. The Connecticut River has carried fortunes, contraband, dreams, and departures past its doors. For nearly 250 years, people have arrived here in search of shelter, celebration, and simply companionship beside a warm fire. Some stayed for a night, some for a season, and some, according to the whisper stories, or at least one captain, never quite found his final berth. In the flicker of the hearthlight as the river moves silently beyond the windows, the past doesn't feel distant. It's present, lingering, waiting. And I hope he's warm by the fire tonight up there.
Yep. Perfect night to huddle by the fire up there. Going to move along to another river. We're going to move to the banks of the Mystic River, where there stands a building that has watched centuries drift past its windows.
And Chris and I have actually been on the ghost tour that features this, as we said, Seaside Shadows in Mystic, Connecticut.
Yep. So in 1754, square rigger Captain Daniel Packer purchased land bordering Water Street in Mystic, Connecticut. 2 years later, in 1756, construction of his home and tavern was complete. From that point forward, and for more than 2 centuries, the property remained in the hands of the Packer family and their descendants, the Keelers. In the late 18th century, the inn became a welcome landmark for travelers making the long journey between New York and Boston. Stagecoaches rattled into town at dusk, horses weary and passengers eager for rest. Inside, they found hearty meals and a roaring fire. Captain Packer himself was said to entertain guests with stories of his adventures at sea, tales of wind-torn sails and distant ports. At first light, he would guide travelers to his rope ferry and transport them, horses, coaches, and all across the Mystic River. With a farewell and a wish for safe passage, he would watch them disappear down the road before turning back to greet the next arrivals. In 1979, new proprietors undertook a careful 4-year restoration, preserving original fireplaces, beams, and mantels using construction methods true to the 18th century. The building's bones remained much as Packer would have known them. But history here stretches even deeper. The inn stands near the site of the 1639 Mystic Massacre, which was one of the most violent episodes and the Pequot War. Its ground long marked by conflict, survival, and memory. Perhaps that is why some say the past has never fully departed. Guests and staff have reported doors slamming without warning, glasses tumbling from shelves, and objects inexplicably moved. A figure in old-time maritime dress has been glimpsed in quiet corridors, believed by some to be Captain Packer himself, still keeping watch over his river. Whether legend or lingering spirit, something in the Daniel Packer Inn makes the air feel charged, as if history here refuses to rest. And moving along from there, we are going to head just off the coast of Milford, where the Long Island Sound stretches gray and restless beneath open sky, sits a small tree-covered landmass known as Charles Island. 14 acres in size, it is connected to the mainland at Silver Sands State Park by a new sandbar that appears at low tide. When the water retreats, the bar rises from the sound like a pale causeway, inviting visitors to cross. When the tide returns, it swallows the path whole, isolating the island once more. But Charles Island has never felt entirely ordinary. Local tradition holds that in 1699, during his final voyage, the notorious Captain William Kidd passed through Milford on his way to Boston. Kidd would soon be arrested, sent back to England, and executed for piracy. Before his capture, he famously buried treasure on Gardiner's Island off Long Island. Yet along the Connecticut shoreline, another story persists, that Kidd concealed a portion of his plunder on Charles Island. Some say it lies beneath a massive glacial boulder known as Hog Rock, and being a pirate of reputation, Kidd is said to have placed a curse upon the treasure, damning anyone who sought to unearth it with a lifetime of misfortune. That is the first curse. The second predates Kidd's supposed visit. The Passauquet, probably butchered that, apologies, tribe regarded the island as sacred, a dwelling place of spirits. When the land was lost to European settlers, legend says a curse followed, cast upon any structure raised there and upon anyone who attempted to claim the island as their own. The message was clear. This was not land meant to be possessed. The third curse emerged in the 18th century when a group of sailors, some versions of, say, privateers, others less charitably labeled them as thieves, attempted to bury their own ill-gotten gains on the island. Their endeavor ended badly. Whether by betrayal, storm, or some darker fate, none prospered. In dying, they were said to have condemned any future treasure hunter who dared disturb the soil. Excuse me. 3 curses, layered like sediment beneath the trees. Over the centuries, none of them have stopped the curious. Charles Island has hosted a surprising array of human ambitions. At various times, it has been used as a resort, a site for fish fertilizer manufacturing, and even a religious retreat. Each endeavor rose with optimism and faded with time. Today, the island is part of Silver Sands State Park, and much of it is protected as a national nature preserve, off limits to safeguard nesting and endangered bird species. Herons stalk the shallows, egrets live in white flashes above the marsh, piping plovers dart along the shore. On bright summer days, it appears serene, almost idyllic. And yet, visitors who cross at low tide often describe a subtle shift upon stepping beneath the island's canopy. The wind sounds different there, threaded through dense brush and twisted trunks. The sand gives way to rock and root. The mainland, so close moments before, feels distant. There are those who claim to have seen figures moving among the trees, glowing shapes at twilight, forms that dissolve when approached. Others speak of disembodied voices carried on the breeze, murmurs too delicate to be mistaken for birds or surf. At times, an overwhelming sense of being watched settles over explorers, as though the island itself has taken notice. Treasure hunters have come and gone for more than 3 centuries. Not a single confirmed doubloon or piece of 8 has ever been recovered. Yet the search continues in whispers and speculation. The curses, if they exist, have proven more enduring than gold. Even the approach to the island feels like a negotiation. The sandbar, more rock than sand in places, demands careful footing. Tide charts must be consulted. Linger too long, and the returning waters can cut off retreat with alarming speed. The Sound does not forgive carelessness. It folds back over the causeway, reclaiming its boundary as if sealing a door. Charles Island seems to prefer it that way. It stands apart, self-contained, and patient. Through centuries of rumor and reverence, it has outlasted pirates, settlers, entrepreneurs, and dreamers. Its trees lean toward the water as if listening. Its rocky spine guards whatever secrets lie beneath. Perhaps there is no treasure buried under Hog Rock. Perhaps no curses were ever spoken aloud. But when the tide slips in and the last light fades from the Sound, Charles Island feels less like a destination and more like a sentinel watching the mainland from just beyond reach.
I don't know if I want to go to this park.
We can go to the park, but I don't think we're going to be walking out to the island.
Yeah.
I don't want to get stranded in the middle of the Sound.
No, and I would prefer not to have any curses.
Oh, no, yeah, no, curses. Yeah, I think we're good. Well, as curse-free as however we are.
That's our curse. We love him. He's a delightful ball of chaos.
And anger.
And anger. That's all I need to deal with.
Such a void.
Yes, he is.
Oh,
yes, such moods today. All right, we're going to go to another park. This is Fort Griswold Battlefield State Park in Groton. It's high above the Thames River in Groton that stands the fort, quiet hilltop that once witnessed one of the largest and bloodiest Revolutionary War battles fought in Connecticut soil. On September 6th of 1781, British forces under the command of Benedict Arnold, yeah, that one, attacked the fort during the campaign that was also targeting nearby New London. Arnold, again, once a general in the Continental Army, now leading troops against his former countrymen. The engagement became known as the Battle of Groton Heights. By its end, the British had overtaken the fort, and more than 80 American militia members lay dead, including their commander, Colonel William Layard. Many were killed after the fort had effectively fallen, a detail that has, of course, lingered heavily in Connecticut's memory. Today, Fort Griswold Battlefield State Park preserves the earthen ramparts where the fighting occurred, then the restored Ebenezer Avery House that stands nearby, where wounded soldiers were carried after the assault, and a 135-foot granite obelisk, which is known as the Groton Monument, that rises above the site. And across the river, Fort Trumbull remains a visible, silent counterpart to the tragedy that unfolded here. Designated as Connecticut's 60th state park in 1953, the grounds are now peaceful with sweeping harbor views and open sky. However, visitors sometimes describe an undercurrent beneath the calm. Cold spots drift across the hill. Some report a faint rhythm of distant marching or the sensation of being watched along the ramparts. At dusk, when the wind moves through the grass, Fort Griswold feels less like a park and more like a post, still guarded by those who never left their station.
Okay, and speaking of New London, we are going to go to the New London Ledge Lighthouse, which rises above the waters of Long Island Sound. It does not resemble the slender towers most people imagine. Completed in 1909, it stands square and solid, more fortress than beacon, perched on a rocky outcrop at the mouth of New London Harbor. From shore, it appears almost domestic, like a house stranded at sea. Up close, it feels isolated and exposed. For decades, mariners relied on its steady light to guide them safely past the ledges. Keepers and assistants rotated through the station in the early 20th century, tending the lamp, maintaining the fog signal, and enduring long stretches of solitude broken only by passing ships and supply runs. Official records document those assignments. They do not, however, confirm the story that has come to define the lighthouse in local lore. According to legend, a local keeper, often identified as John Ernie Randolph, served at Ledge Lighthouse sometime between 1915 and 1926. The details shift with each telling. In most versions, Ernie's wife found the isolation unbearable. The sound, beautiful from a distance, became a prison when surrounded by it on all sides. She begged him to leave his post and seek work on the mainland. He refused, bound by duty. One day, the story goes, she disappeared. Later, Ernie learned that she had fled with a local ferry captain. Devastated, he climbed to the top of the lighthouse and took his own life, casting himself into the water below. His body, legend insists, was never recovered. Now, there is no documented evidence confirming that such a death occurred at Ledge Lighthouse. No official record verifies the tragedy, and yet the name Ernie persists, spoken quietly by boaters and staff alike. Reports of strange activity at the lighthouse date back to at least the 1930s. Keepers and Coast Guard personnel described doors slamming without warning in still air, blankets tugged from beds, televisions switching on in empty rooms, the foghorn, designed to sound only in thick weather, allegedly blaring on clear nights without human touch. More unsettling are the accounts from the water. Boats tied securely to the dock have been found inexplicably unmoored, drifting outward as if nudged by unseen hands. Electronic equipment malfunctions without clear cause. Radios cackle with static in calm conditions. Visitors and staff have occasionally reported glimpsing a tall, bearded man inside the structure, clad in a slicker and rain hat, his outline momentarily visible in doorways or along the upper gallery before dissolving into shadow. He is not described as menacing, merely present. National paranormal investigation teams have visited the lighthouse over the years, drawn by its reputation. Instruments have been set up in its narrow corridors. Audio recorders have captured unexplained knocks and metal clangs. While no investigation has produced definitive proof of a haunting, neither has the activity been conclusively explained. The structure itself seems to amplify the unease. Waves strike the stone foundation in rhythmic percussion. Wind whistles through seams in iron and brick. The sound carries voices across surprising distances. In fog, the lighthouse became a silhouette suspended in white nothingness, cut off from short line and sky alike. Adding to the lore is a short, darkly humorous poem attributed to an unnamed officer once stationed there. Referring to the lighthouse as hell on earth, the verse suggests a longing to escape its slow, grinding isolation. Whether written in jest or frustration, the sentiment reinforces what life on the rock could feel like: confinement surrounded by endless horizon. Perhaps that is the true heart of the haunting. Ledge Lighthouse stands apart, never fully of the land, never entirely of the sea. It exists in the in-between, where loneliness can stretch and distort. Even without tragedy, such isolation leaves an imprint. And so the legend endures, a keeper who would not abandon his post, a betrayal beneath an open sky, a final desperate climb. On certain evenings, when the harbor grows quiet and the tide slackens, the lighthouse appears almost contemplative, its windows dark, its gallery still. Then, without warning, a door may echo shut inside its walls. Whether it is wind, iron settling, or something that refuses to leave, those who approach New London Ledge Lighthouse rarely do so without glancing twice at its upper windows, just in case someone is standing there watching the shore. Dun, dun, dun.
All right, so now we're going to actually move into a place of quiet reflection. This is Union Cemetery and Stephanie Cemetery. These cemeteries, while they're often inviting that quiet reflection, they also seem to watch you back. Union Cemetery in Easton has held a long reputation as one of the spookiest spots in Connecticut. By day, it appears unassuming, weathered headstones, narrow lanes, trees bending gently over the old graves. But as dusk settles in, the air seems to thicken, and the stories begin to rise with the mist. At the center of those stories stands a figure simply known as the White Lady. For decades, witnesses have claimed to see a woman in a long white gown walking among the gravestones. She's often described as having dark hair, her form pale against the shadows. Some say she glides rather than walks. Others insist she's been photographed, even videotaped. Paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren have helped popularize her legend, drawing national attention to Union Cemetery through their lectures and their writings. After that, the sightings only seemed to multiply. But who is she? No single answer holds. Some believe she was a woman who was murdered by her husband in the 1940s and met a violent end. Let me rephrase that. She was a woman who murdered her husband in the 1940s and then met a violent end herself. Others claim she was the victim and that her body was dumped in the sinkhole behind the nearby Easton Baptist Church. Still others whisper that she died in childbirth and wanders still searching for the child she never held. Each version carries its own tragedy. Each insists it's the truth. She's been drifting between the headstones, floating above them, silently standing beneath the trees, and sometimes, they say, she actually leaves the cemetery. The road bordering the Union Cemetery, which is Route 59, has had its own share of stories. Drivers traveling at night have reported a sudden figure in white stepping into their headlights. Instinct takes over, brakes slam, tires screech. But when the vehicles stop and the drivers get out, the road's empty. No footprints, no fallen body, only the sound of wind moving through the trees. As unsettling as the White Lady may be, she's not alone. There's another presence spoken in even lower tones. This is the entity known as Red Eyes. Unlike the pale woman in white, this figure does not drift gracefully through the moonlight. Red Eyes is said to linger in the shadows at the edges of the grounds. Witnesses describe a dark shape barely distinguishable in the night, except for the two glowing points fixed steadily on those who wander too far from the path. Some report feeling an overwhelming dread, as if something ancient, territorial, has taken notice of their intrusion. While the White Lady carries the air of tragedy, Red Eyes feels different, less sorrowful, more watchful. Together, they've given Union Cemetery a reputation that has endured for generations. Teenagers dare one another to enter after dark. Paranormal enthusiasts arrive with cameras and recorders in hand. Some leave with stories of cold hands brushing past them, others of whispers caught on tape, of headlights flickering without cause. Just a few miles away in Monroe lies Stephanie Cemetery, another quieter, less notorious, but it doesn't draw the same late-night crowds, nor does it carry quite the same weight of legend. Yet there are those who claim that the White Lady is seen there as well, wandering among the graves as if the boundary between the two cemeteries means nothing at all. Stephanie holds a particular significance in this story. It is the final resting place of Ed Warren, one of the investigators that made the White Lady's legend so popular in the public eye. Some find a certain symmetry in that fact. The man who spent years examining her mystery now lies beneath Connecticut soil, not far from where she is said to roam. Whether Union Cemetery's apparitions are born of folklore, imagination, or something less easily explained, the stories persist because they feel rooted, like the old trees that guard the graves. Drive Route 59 after sunset, slow near the cemetery gates, watch the tree line. You might see nothing at all. You may see a figure in white stepping softly between the stones, or something deeper in the shadows watching you in return.
Dun, dun, dun. Sorry, I can't help it. It lends itself to that.
It does. I mean, a creepy shadow figure with red eyes is disturbing.
All right, we're going to swing back to New London. And here at 6 Guthrie Place in New London stands a grand seaside estate once known as Meadow Court, now remembered as the Lighthouse Inn. Designed by architect William Ralph Emerson and completed in 1902, the stately home was built for steel magnate Charles S. Guthrie as a summer retreat overlooking Long Island Sound. Its sweeping porches and commanding presence reflected the elegance of the era, when New London's shoreline was a fashionable escape for wealthy families seeking salt air in society. Guthrie's time there was brief. He died unexpectedly in 1906, and in the decades that followed, portions of the estate were sold. In 1927, the main house was converted into an inn. By the 1940s, it had become a destination for dining and events, even drawing Hollywood stars who mingled beneath its high ceilings and along its polished staircases. The property was later recognized on the National Register of Historic Places in 1996, a nod to its architectural and cultural significance. But history here carries a more intimate story. According to legend, in the early 1900s, a young bride descended the inn's grand staircase on her wedding day. Whether from nerves, haste, or a misstep of fate, she fell, fatally breaking her neck. The tragedy, though unconfirmed in official records, had become woven into the building's identity. Since then, guests and staff have reported seeing a woman in white moving quietly through the halls. She is most often associated with the staircase, pacing as if rehearsing the walk she never completed. Some claim lights flicker on and off in empty rooms. Curtains stir when no windows are open. Yet the bride's presence is not always unsettling. In the honeymoon suite, couples have reported waking to find blankets gently pulled up and bedclothes neatly arranged. Staff members speak of a quiet order restored overnight, as though an unseen hand wished to ensure that another love story unfolds more happily than her own. The Lighthouse Inn stands serene against the sound, its facade dignified and calm. But within its walls, the past lingers, graceful, watchful, and perhaps still waiting at the top of the stairs.
I want to go stand in.
Okay. You good there? Sounded like an exasperated, yeah, what was that?
She's trying to, like, put her butt on my foot.
Oh, gotcha, okay. You can't see Yuna's just
she's
off
right
camera.
here. I'm still in a shoe, and Yuna's, like, trying to get slightly on top of that.
Good times.
We don't want to exasperate this any longer than has to.
Yeah. So let me preface this. If you've been listening to us for a good long time now, this might sound a tinge familiar. We don't revisit stories very often, but this next tale was very memorable and couldn't resist sharing it again. This was from our Erie Paddles episode that we did all the way back on September 13th of 2021. So if you caught that, you're going to hear it again as soon as Beth is done yawning.
I'm trying not to sneeze. I'm sorry. Ill-timed sneeze. I'll probably do it during the middle of the story. Just be ready.
You good? You good?
I'm good.
You sure?
I think. Maybe.
You sure?
We'll see.
You good?
You're not helping. Gardner Lake in Salem is known for its clear water, quiet coves, and steady fishing. On warm summer mornings, the surface glints peacefully beneath the sun. Families launch on boats from the state ramp. Anglers cast their lines into the depths that seem calm and ordinary. And somewhere below the stories, if they're to be believed, rests an entire house. The legend dates back to the 1890s when a family living along the shore decided to relocate their home to the opposite side of the lake. Rather than dismantle it board by board, they chose what must have felt like something inspired Yankee ingenuity.
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 Charming.
In other words, yeah, we weren't thinking right.
I don't know. I mean, it seemed pretty clever until it wasn't.
Yeah. It's a house on a frozen lake. What could go wrong?
You're about to find out.
Yeah. So they waited till winter, and when the ice froze thick and solid, they just jacked the house up, mounted it on sleds, and decided to haul it straight across the lake, the shortest distance between 2 points. In theory...
Genius. In theory.
For a time, the plan worked. The house creaked its way over the frozen surface, inch by inch, but daylight faded before the journey was complete, and unable to finish crossing in a single day, The family left the structure in the middle of the lake, intending to return in the morning. Overnight, the ice weakened. By dawn, the lake made its decision. The house began to sink. The family salvaged what they could, dragging the furniture belongings back to shore. The heaviest items were left behind: the cast iron stove, the couches, an upright piano. According to the legend, the house did not disappear immediately. It floated for years, bobbing stubbornly at the surface like an unwelcome guest. Even though it succumbed, settling some 30 feet below where the lake grows dim and green. Scuba divers have reported seeing remnants of the structure still resting on the bottom. Timbers collapsed inward, fragments of old furniture, and what appears to be the outline of that long abandoned piano. Strange enough, perhaps, Gardner Lake carries another layer to its story. Over the years, fishermen drifting quietly across the water have claimed to hear faint strains of music. Not loud, not distinct, just the suggestion of a melody rising and fading with the breeze. Those who report it insist that the sound does not travel across the surface, but up from below, with no one agreeing on what the tune is. It just feels old. Skeptics point to shifting ice, echoing boat motors, the imagination's habit of filling silence with pattern. Lakes are known to speak in creaks and murmurs, especially when temperatures change, wood swells, and the sound bends strangely across open space. And yet, the accounts persist. Gardner Lake remains tranquil on most days, its depths undisturbed, save for the fish and the drifting weeds. Boats pass overhead, unaware of what the legend says lies beneath them. The water reveals nothing. It holds memories. It keeps secrets. But on the windless evenings, when the lake flattens the glass and the conversation falls away, you may hear it, a single wavering note, as if pressed by unseen hands, soft, measured, maybe practicing, waiting for the ice to freeze once more. Are you playing the Miko?
Eunice disgusted.
She usually is.
Oh. Hi, Beverly. Hope that you're doing well. Well, it hasn't been that long since we saw you. Just a couple of weeks.
Yep.
But yeah, glad that you could tune in tonight. And, oh, yes. All right, go get into some hillside legends.
Yes.
All right, high above Meridian, the trap rock ridges of the hanging hills rise in dark, jagged lines against the sky. West Peak, the highest of them, draws hikers with sweeping views in sudden cliffs. It is beautiful country, wind-scoured, rocky, and unforgiving in winter. It is also home to one of Connecticut's most enduring legends. In the winter of 1891, a Harvard geologist, F.S., was exploring the hanging hills when he became aware of a small black dog following him along the trail. The animal did not bark, it did not growl. Most unsettling of all, it left no tracks in the fresh snow. It simply moved beside him, silent and watchful, as if it had been waiting for him to arrive. F.S. thought it odd, but not threatening. Eventually, the dog vanished as quietly as it had appeared, swallowed by the trees and the wind. Only later did F.S. learn the local superstition. The black dog of the hanging hills was no ordinary stray. To see it once was said to bring joy. To see it twice, sorrow. To see it a third time meant death. 3 years later, F.S. returned to West Peak with his colleague, Herbert Marshall of the U.S. Geological Survey. As they climbed the steep slopes and navigated icy ledges, F.S. mentioned his earlier encounter. Marshall's response was not amusement, but recognition. He admitted he had seen the same black dog on past trips. Twice. The men laughed uneasily and continued upward, refusing to grant a mountain tale any power over trained minds. The ridge narrowed. The wind sharpened. The stone underfoot grew slick, and unreliable. Then, high along the cliffs, they saw it again. The small black dog stood above them on a rocky outcrop, its dark shape stark against the pale winter sky. Witnesses later said its breath was visible in the cold air, yet it made no sound. Moments after the sighting, the rock beneath Marshall gave way. He fell from the ledge and was killed on the slope below. And the dog was gone. Years passed. FS, perhaps unable to shake what he had seen or what he felt responsible for, returned alone to West Peak. Not long afterward, his body was discovered near the same treacherous cliffs where Marshall had fallen. Whether he slipped, stumbled, or misjudged his footing is unknown. Among locals, however, the conclusion was already written. Over time, the legend deepened. Hikers in the hanging hills have reported glimpses of a small black dog moving silently between the rocks, appearing without warning and vanishing just as quickly. Stories have circulated of fatal accidents in the area. At least 6 deaths, according to folklore, whispered to be tied to the curse. The hills themselves offer no explanation. The wind cuts sharply along the ridgeline. Loose stone shifts beneath careless steps. Shadows lengthen quickly in the late afternoon. Those who walk West Peak today may see nothing more than stone and sky. But the old warning remains. See the dog once, and you will know happiness. See it twice, and sorrow will follow. See it a third time, and the mountain will claim you.
I'm going to jump ahead to the one that we haven't done yet.
Oh, okay.
Because of our timing.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, so we're going to jump over to the Wooded Hills of Monroe, not far from Cutler's Farm Road, near the rise of Craig Hill. Was named, the name Hannah Karana had endured for more than a century and a half. She was not tried in Salem nor dragged to the stake. Excuse me. She lived out her days in her own property, dying in 1866 at the age of 77. Yet to this day, she is remembered as the Wicked Witch of Monroe. Her legend is told, as it's told, began with her husband, Captain Joseph Hobby, and he was said to have gone out one evening for a simple walk and had somehow fallen from a cliff, meeting his death below. The details have never been firmly documented, and the fall itself survives largely in the local tradition. But in a small New England town, tragedy rarely stands alone. It gathers explanation. It invites suspicion. Whispers began that the captain's death was no accident, that Hannah had bewitched him, clouding his mind and leading him to his doom. Whether she already was regarded as difficult or whether the grief hardened her reputation further, it's impossible to say. But after Joseph's death, Hannah's found herself isolated. She was said to demand food and firewood from her neighbors, invoking her fearsome reputation when refused. Those who crossed her were rumored to suffer for it. A farmer caught fishing in a brook that ran through her property alleged found himself unable to catch another fish for the rest of his days. A woman who denied Hannah a fresh baked pie reportedly lost her knack for baking altogether. These stories, impossible to prove, impossible to disprove, took on a life of their own. From her home on Craig Hill, a place some claimed was guarded by snakes, Hannah was believed to reward those who respected her and punish those who did not. It was not her life, however, but her death that sealed her place in the Connecticut folklore. Hannah kept a rooster. When it died, she reportedly told a neighbor that her own end was near. She issued specific instructions. Her coffin must be carried by hand to the graveyard. She must not be buried before sundown. She died the following day. Snow was falling heavily when the townspeople prepared for the burial. Rather than carry the coffin through the drifts, they chose an easier route. They placed it upon a sled and pulled it towards the cemetery. The decision did not go smoothly. As the procession moved down the hill, the coffin slipped from the sled and slid back towards Hannah's front door. They tried again, only to meet with the same result. Whether the slope was steeper than expected, the ice more treacherous, or nerves too frayed to manage the weight, the outcome was the same. The coffin refused the sled. Unwilling to test fate further, the townspeople lifted the casket onto their shoulders and carried it by hand, as she had instructed. By the time they reached the cemetery, dusk was settling over the hills. When they returned to the house on Craig Hill, flames were already consuming it. The house was engulfed. The fire was too far advanced to save it. To those who had justified her burial wishes, the blaze felt less like coincidence and more like a final warning. Her grave rests high above the road, overlooking a quiet sweep of Monroe, and like any good New England legend, the story didn't end with her burial. Drivers along Spring Hill Road have claimed from time to time to see a woman appear suddenly on the roadway, a pale figure causing startled swerves and near collisions. Some insist those who lose control crash into Hannah's gravestone itself. The stone, however, sits well above the road on a hillside. Reaching it by accident would require a trajectory that defies all ordinary explanation. But legend rarely troubles itself with physics. Mythbusters!
I don't think that they're going to be shooting cars at cemeteries anytime soon.
No, but they could, recreate the experiment.
I know. They have sent cars sailing in a number of different methods over the years.
Yes, and they would know better than to mess with a witch legend. However, in the end, Hannah's remains what she always was, a woman whose sharp edges, widowhood, and independence hardened into myth. Whether feared unjustly or feared for good reason, she occupies a peculiar space in New England's known well for where... What did you write here? She occupies that particular space in New England that New England knows well, where fact and folklore share the same cold ground. There we go. I'm having difficulty here.
I can tell. It's all right. I think we're both. One more sentence. One more sentence. You got this.
On certain nights when the hills around Craig Hill still grow still and the road below falls quiet, some claim the Wicked Witch of Monroe is not entirely at rest. Oh boy.
You survived.
That last one was a little rough. I'm sorry.
I don't know that would have done any better. Probably not.
Sleep. Need sleep.
It's only Monday.
I know, that's not good.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for putting up with us this evening.
Yes. Sorry we are not at our best.
We are not on our A game, but the kitty cat say hello. You saying hello?
And there they go.
All right. That was too much.
You still have Una.
Bridge too far.
You can see her ears.
Oh, yeah. You can see Una just right down here.
You can see the ears.
She looks very annoyed now. Anyways, we will be back in a couple of weeks. 2 weeks?
Was
it 2 weeks or 3? We're going to be doing Ireland again. And admittedly...
This might be our last Irish one.
We have done a Haunted Ireland every March for this will be the 6th year running.
Yeah, so hopefully March 9th we'll be doing Haunted Ireland.
Actually, no, this will be the 7th year running because they include 2020.
Yeah.
So, yeah. We have done a lot of Haunted Ireland.
We're going to have to switch to something else.
We will...
Maybe we'll go to some Scotland.
We'll... Hi, Mom. I'm going to need a bigger lap. Yes. Yes, I am.
He's not fully extended on the couch right now, which is not making them happy.
They're very unhappy I don't have the footrest up, but they will have the footrest once we get off the air here.
Yes.
But yes, 2 weeks or 3 weeks?
2 weeks, March 9th.
March 9th. Okay. Yeah. So it will be Haunted Ireland. We'll see. It may be the last Haunted Ireland.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We may have to go to some other Celtic countries.
7 volumes on one country is pretty substantial. Pretty substantial. That's like almost 5% of all the episodes that we've done. And we've done a lot of episodes.
Yeah.
So.
But then we'll go back to states after that at the end of March.
We're making progress. We are going to get to all 50 states. Hell, we've done some of the states twice now.
Yeah.
Or was it just Alaska that we did twice, state-wise?
It might be just Alaska we did twice because we were traveling there.
Yeah. In any case, we will get to all 50 states.
Yeah.
Promise that. But with that said, we're going to wrap it up for tonight. Next month, we got the Irish Fest. Although we'll have our next episode well before Irish Fest. So we'll talk that up then. In the meantime, we got regular tours going. Matter of fact, Tiffany was out in Churchill tonight while we were doing this.
Yeah, part of what I was texting, she was letting me know she was done.
Yep. So tours are going.
Yes, they are.
And things are gradually starting to warm up, despite the fact that we got a little bit of snow yesterday that did not stick.
It did not stick.
Thankfully. So, but yeah.
I'm good with not shoveling or playing with ice for the rest of this year. I hit my quota.
Your foot hit its quota.
My foot hit its quota.
All right. Well, thank you all for watching, and we will catch you next time. Stay spooky, y'all.
Bye.